Sacred Union, channeled by Abraham. And he said to look him up in the Bible and do some research on him and why he has come through, because he is the father of all fathers. And so I looked up a little bit on Google. I know he was in the Old Testament because he was one of the founding fathers sort of information. And he is the patriarch. Genesis 11:25. The father of faithful who obeyed God's call to leave his home and to trust and with that promise he got countless divine blessings that exemplified some faith and obedience. So Abraham was one of these people that trusted his mission, his service, where he was going. He needed to get up and just get going and do what he needed to do to create. And this is what we do as new workers, in service on a mission. And he was doing the same. And he said, the first word I ever got about doing sacred union was, it's all about the trust. And he trusted. And so off he went, and then he got divine blessings. That's where you get your blessings from. When you go against your trust and go against what your heart's telling you, that's when things do not work out for you. And we know that, for example, in life, we've found that if we don't follow our intuition, our heart, our true emotional being, then you end up going down all sorts of different roads. You still get there, but it's just a harder journey. When if you just trust and really believe in what you're doing, then it becomes a lot more simplified and you receive the blessings along the way. So that's what he did. And he said, so we're here to activate the sacred union of a time that we once had the sacred union. That's all it was. It was never anything about a marriage and certificates and deeds and things like this, where the woman went to the man and she took on the man's name and all that. It was never that way at all. Do you know who took over the rights of the marriage certificate? It wasn't the Romans.
Oh,
It was the Greeks, Greek orthodox.
And so why did people do it if it was them?
What's that, hum?
So why did people agree to it if it was them? I mean, were they the big thing at the time?
What, the Greek Orthodox?
Yeah.
No, well, so what happened was, you know how we have the Roman Church that came in and they took over all our birth certificates, and it went over to Italy into the whole being on the water and all that kind of thing, and
Yeah.
Venice. Well, they had to divide up certain sectors. It's like the mafia. You have certain roles. Well, the Greek Orthodox, that religion, which comes under a sort of a branch of the Romans, took over the deeds of marriage. That was their creation.
Oh, I see. I understand. Thank you.
So, the birth certificates went under the Romans. The marriage certificates went under the Greek Orthodox. That's why you see a lot of Latin language and everything in legal documents and things, because those countries back then in the Mediterranean were very, speaking in that old Hebrew Latin type of language, and it still stands today in our legal documents. Same about prescriptions.
Yes.
So, it's a certain way of writing. So the general don't understand.
Exactly.
Because, in the mortgage document, you are not the owner, you're the tenant.
Yeah.
In the marriage certificate, you're an ownership. So it's like, same thing as buying something. So the marriage certificate was all about ownership, slavery, giving away, change of ownership, change of name. That's what it was about, for riches, for other families to increase their riches. So the man's family bought from the woman's family, and so forth. And then the man's family gave the woman's family, I don't know, what they used to do, trading cows and goats and sheep and things and gold and stuff like that. But they took on that man's family's name when it shouldn't have been that way. You remain with the name that you were given. You were never meant to change your name. It was
Mm.
because it was an ownership. She is now owned by that man, so she takes on that name. And that's what they did in slavery, even right up into, the black slavery of the US, right up into the 40s, 50s, early 1960s. The master of the home gave you his surname. You were a slave.
Yeah.
And so that's what that was about. Problem is that gave it the wrong frequency. It took away from God's true blessing of sacred union. And so that's why we have divorce, because it gave the frequency to grow apart, not want to be together. All sorts of things came in to influence it, because the woman then felt smaller, she felt not heard, and so forth. And the man always thought he was doing something wrong, or they just grew apart. They became roommates rather than a marriage, so forth. It allowed for him to have more wives. It allowed him to have more relationships, that kind of thing. Why she slaved away, gave birth, had children, cooked, cleaned, and so forth. And that's where that all came from. It wasn't a relationship, a union of working together in love and trust. It was a deed.
Yeah, can
And so
see
it
that.
carries
Yeah.
on to today as well. So what it caused was relationships to break down. And as Abraham said, contracts carry frequency.
Yep.
So it's like a mortgage carries a frequency, and
Yeah.
so forth. So we look at contracts as something that carries a frequency that can create not goodness. It can create unhappiness. It can create a false presence of love, or, of a truth. And people just say, well, I made that promise and I signed that marriage certificate. I can't give this up. Yes, you can. You can walk away. It was never meant to be that way, where you feel you had to be obligated to stay with
Okay.
someone because you signed a contract. And so this is what causes the unhappiness in people's life, the slavery, the enslavement of a relationship. And so therefore it was all bad energy. And when the church and the governments get involved, it's not a
Yeah.
sacred union, it's a deed. And they make money off it, just like they do your birth certificate. And then, of course, you go down to the name change that carries a frequency because of gematria. Your letters resemble a number. And then if you add up your gematria number to your maiden name to the man's name, it could be a lot worse. And I know that when I changed my name, when I went to change my name, it was going to be bad. And it was. It was really bad energy. And like I said, my marriage only lasted 8 years because of it. It had a lot of bad frequency to that surname.
Mm.
So I married into a bad energy, a bad surname. Do your research before you marry anyone. So there's that too. Um, so the purpose of today is to dissolve the government contract and to activate the true sacred union, because at the moment we're under the receipt of a transaction as a marriage. And I want my future grandchildren, great grandchildren, all to be free to have a sacred union under a true frequency of love, trust, openness, and pureness, not under a government deed. Because that's when,
Absolutely.
because you look at the relationships of ancient times, they lasted. They never parted. There was no such thing as divorce. It wasn't divorce courts back then, you know. So Abraham's channeling. Dear beloved light beings of oneness, I come today as the founding father of faith. You need to live by faith. And that's what he did. He learned to live by faith and to trust your heart. So if you look at the way that we go into a sacred union, it's between a man and a woman and God. You just go, back then you didn't get married in a church. You stood in the garden, you stood in the ocean, you stood on the sand, you stood under the sun, you stood under a moon, whatever you wanted to do, and made an everlasting promise to each other. That's what he's saying. You have to remember that faith and remember that trust. You don't have to have this big show, affair of thousands of people, alcohol, food, expensive dresses, cars, churches, halls. It's not about that. That's just a show. So faith, trust, your heart. You and generations have given your trust away freely, which we did. We didn't know any different, and therefore have suffered with controls of those that to benefit from you by giving them riches. So who were we keeping in business for our love of one another? Churches, lawyers, restaurants, wedding celebrity, what are they called? Organizers, venue. For your love, you gave it away freely to have all that for one day. When your love is eternal for one another, well, it was meant to be. And they say that, divorce is more expensive than a wedding. Removing your own heart's desires and trust, understanding and knowing is what you did. Because of the programming.
Yeah.
Controls are in place, but are now slowly breaking down. You, dear ones, have been instrumental in the breaking down of systems, controls, and obedience to masters of deception instead of God, creating your soul to more move away further from knowing their true self. So you're moving yourself away from knowing your true self because you say, yes, you can come, yes, we'll have this, we'll have that. And you're forgetting about the relationship and where it stands. How many people argue before the wedding? How many people have a disagreement or family disagreement? It causes upheaval. And then the couple that are actually doing the sacred union, the actual, making a promise, go into the wedding with ill feeling because the families are arguing and bickering behind the scenes. The foundations of love should not be trusted in deeds, certificate, bonds, or slavery of a man's ownership. The power of your love sacred between two people, not a government, not a church or others. It is between two hearts and their parents. So the parents let you go. Remember, they are a peer that rents you until a certain age, and then they let you go to become your own sacred union with your own person that you love. It is so far removed and manipulated as marriage when it is a union with two hearts in front of God to be a promise of everlasting. The frequency has been changed, therefore divorce is a result of dull frequency, not understanding each other, not recognizing signs or the true balance of a heart-to-heart relationship, because it's two hearts coming together, and that's why you get that heart shape. So it's two hearts coming together. The marriage deed needs to be removed, freedom needs to be restored, and name change needs to be the way it was meant to be, that is, of the mother, divine feminine, restore the power. He's telling us to restore that power. So the children should be named after the mother, not the
Mine are.
father. What was that, huh?
Mine are.
Yeah, mine
They're
are.
named after the mother.
Mine chose my name. They didn't like their father's name because they knew the frequency was bad. How's that?
Mm.
You have to be called today to restore the sacred union to the deed of marriage for all, and to change the frequency back to the pureness of oneness and wholeness. So we have been called today, the light workers of the world, to restore the sacred union and to dissolve the deed of marriage. That's our
Wonderful.
role. So it's quite a big role.
Mm.
And you know, this is what's happened. People don't see it that way. They see it as, yes, we're married, aren't we lucky? You know, we've got our certificate and everything. But they don't realize the frequency it carries. There's only a very small 5% of marriages that last under that deed. So, you know, we're going back to that pureness of oneness and wholeness. So you're a whole heart, two hearts become one. This will collapse the programming and systems in control of the sacred union love. So it's called the sacred union love. You have also been called to activate the sacred union and its oneness in the true love of pureness, sacredness between two people, true heart-to-heart relationship that grows together in oneness. So a sacred union is true heart-to-heart oneness. You grow together, you don't grow apart. And that's what the deed frequency does. It causes you to grow apart because it carries the frequency of the early days when the woman was sold to the man.
Well, the fact that even the word contract is used,
What's that?
I said the fact that even contract is used, the name contract, because it becomes, it's nothing emotional then, it's a legally binding, which, yeah, takes out all the essence of what's behind, you know.
The sacred union, exactly. And that's why divorce costs so much, because it is legally bound. You're legally bound to each other.
Yeah.
You're not meant to be, you're meant to be free.
Interesting.
So then he talks about no huge displays of fakeness programming. Debauchery talks about. So it can cause debauchery or control. So debauchery in the sign of everyone gets drunk at weddings and carries on, you know, low dimensional, all over the place, groomsmen kissing bridesmaids and hooking up and all that debauchery stuff.
Yeah.
Not meant to be that, because it still passes that frequency over. This is time to return to the oneness of love, pureness, and sacredness, not a show of crowds, noise, and performance. So he called it noise and performance. Just two hearts in oneness, kneeling in front of God with a promise to understand and to grow together through all life's ups and downs. That's all it was. Kneeling before God, making a promise to one another. And yet they had all this other programming, show, noise, crowd, you know, and it didn't need to be that. Today, the sacred union of old, the simple love between man and woman must be honored in pureness, oneness, trust, love, understanding, and knowing. It is now time to go back to the beginning. It is now time to dissolve all that has been done unto that is of not light or sacred. To have true union under God's love light of truth, understanding, wisdom, and trust. And it's in capitals, trust. To trust your heart that you're with the right person, you're having a sacred union. You're not going in front of a church leader, because some of those religions make you go and meet with the leader of the church and he defines whether you're good enough for each other. You know, this is like in the Mormon church, a lot of it's arranged marriages from one family to another.
Mm.
Questions, people.
The masters of deceit.
It is. And like you said, it is now time to restore that sacred union, which is
Absolutely.
what is new earth going to be. Our grandchildren will be able to be with their partner, stand under a tree, pray to God, put their hands up in the air and say, we make a promise to understand one another, to trust each other, to learn by each other, to be with each other, with no interference of government controls or of, the church or whatever. And they will have far more success than marriages of the past, because there will not be that frequency of contract. There'll be no changing of names. Anyway, as we go into New Earth, we will only have one name. Bloodlines and surnames and that will disappear because it won't be important. The only reason it's important for your deed of all sorts, birth certificates, remember? So it's interesting what's come through on it. I didn't realize it went so deep.
Oh, it's deep, all right, isn't it? Very deep.
It's really controlling. And you see all these bridezillas and that carrying on, behaving badly before their weddings. It's not about the love between their partner. It's about the big day and the show that they're going to put on. It's a performance. And for them to say it's the bride's day, it's not the bride's day. It should be two hearts together. Two hearts just standing out in front of God saying, we're going to do this. And the marriages that are together under this deed and that are succeeding is because they're growing together. They understand their soul missions. They work together in harmony. They haven't allowed that frequency to adjust them. And there's only like I said, 5% of the world that is still like that. Because they trust. Once you don't trust your heart and think, oh, well, I'll just have this big day, big show and everything. And then they forget about it all. And then they get into the marriage and a year or two down the road, it collapses because they're growing apart after the big day and the big event and all that. There's nothing to share. They realize, it was all just for show. And that happens a lot. You see that. And people that have lived together for 10, 15 years, and then all of a sudden they get married and 2 or 3 years down the road, they're struggling because the frequency has changed it. And I used to say that to people that I was counseling. I used to say to them, as soon as you get married, it changes the frequency of the relationship.
Yeah.
Tamara.
Hello.
Hi, darling.
Hi, I'm on my phone. It's taken me forever to find all the settings on it. It's all changed.
That's what I did this morning with this. They do this overnight.
That's so true. My brother and his partner were together for 10 years or longer. They got engaged and they broke up 6 months later.
It's the pressure.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when I look at these big days, and I'm lucky because Janet's going off to her daughter's wedding in UK at the moment, and it's all about the show, the hens party, what we wear at the hens party, where we go, what we do. It's all show. It's programming. And unfortunately, as he said, it's about the sacred union. The simple love between man and woman is forgotten during that time, which adds the frequency to the deed. And then you have the other side of the family bickering because someone's paying for the booze and someone's not paying for the food. And, and it's all those sort of dramas that you have during weddings. So we've got to reinstate the energy, the frequency of the sacred union, and we do that with even the existing marriages of today. So those people that are under the control of the deed will have the new sacred union frequency added to it for new earth. And that's a big ask because we have to do it to change that frequency. For people like that are about to get married or have been married and under that control, the deed can now have this new frequency added to it. But like I said, there's only 5% of the world that are still together and happy and doing what they're meant to be doing in that union, whereas the rest of the world struggle. They become roommates, become best friends. They separate, get divorced, whatever. Activation. You must go to your heart center. Now, this is all about going to our heart centers again. And he asked me to do the sacred heart activation. So if anyone's got that and soul messages, get it ready. You must go to your heart center, envision the emerald crystal heart of light, love, and hold that space. So before you get ready to do the activation, envision yourself in that emerald space, because that's that heart activation space. And where we're going to do the activation, we're going to Athens in Greece, to the Emerald Temple of Love, which is the Sacred Union Temple where they hold the controls. They have to release it. Remember, I said the Romans took the birth certificates, the Greek Orthodox took the marriage deed.
Yeah.
Temple of Love is where this activation must take place. Athens, Greece. The Greek Orthodox were to take over the deed of marriage, not the Romans as expected. The history we know is a lie. It is now time to dissolve the belief system of control, the contract ownership, deed, slavery. We, the light of New Earth, denounce all misinformation or controls that have managed the sacred union. It is now a new earth of being free, living in love, harmony, trust, truth, and light. Let it be free now for eternity. So we're freeing the deed. We ask this in God's name, that it must be to symbolize the coming together in love, harmony, and truth. Again, truth, because that's what Abraham represents. Divine masculine, divine feminine are now free of sale, ownership, deeds, and contracts. From this day forward, all generations to come are now in the free frequency of sacred union for New Earth. There's going to be a lot of happy marriages in the future. There's going to be a lot of good soul relationships coming. Sacred love, sacred union, and sacred heart.
Oh.
Be only to God and twosomes that become oneness. Let that sink in. Not the wedding party. Pureness of two hearts that promise to love, live, share, and be understanding. So those 5% that are under the deed and are successfully married and working together are understanding one another and trusting. Whereas that frequency removes that from the others and they become separated. It becomes, sometimes a marriage becomes a competition between two people too. It gets quite nasty, as we know. Oneness of growth, development, and sharing knowledge for the greater good is what we want. So think about that.
Yes.
To explore the power of love and its oneness to all that is in openness of understanding, loving, unconditionally service, mission, and soul together. So God made a couple be together in the sense of oneness of growth, development. It's supposed to impact your soul journey, not pull it apart.
Yeah.
You're sharing knowledge for the greater good, to explore the power of love and its oneness to all that is an openness of understanding. And when you see a good marriage, you see the two working together and you look at them and you go, geez, they understand each other. They really do. There's no way anyone can come between them. It's so strong. Loving unconditionally, service, mission, and soul together. May the sacred union be the love for new earth and the promise of togetherness of oneness, pureness of all that is. Creator, we now understand the heart of all that is with consciousness of knowing love of togetherness. We thank you. So that's the activation.
Wow.
Remove the deed. You've given them their freedom and power back, and you've activated the sacred union for new earth all in one go. Bang.
Fantastic. Really quite in depth too, everything that was said there. I mean, we probably feel it, but you don't really recognize it because it's really deep. You know, a lot of you sort of skim the top. You think you know. And then when it's put into words like that, it's like, yes.
So many layers. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, you know, you look at these marriages that have been together, 10, 15, 20 years, it's because they understand one another. And you watch them from a distance and you see them working. I mean, I've worked with couples like this before, and I see them working together and I think, how do they do it? We even question it. We go, how do they do it? How come that's such a good marriage? You know, and they haven't let that frequency come between them somehow. They've stayed together, they've worked at it. Whereas the ones that are for the big show and everything, it just doesn't happen because you can feel the frequency. Also, you've got outside attacks on that marriage of that sacred union. That's why you're not meant to make it public. You're meant to go off together, the two of you, stand beneath a tree, as I said, in the ocean, wherever you want to do it, on top of a mountain. That's how they used to do it. They stood together, they reached out to God and said, this is our promise to one another. There was no outside interference. And my mother always used to say that nobody can interfere in your relationship. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're in it with them, you can't be there. You're not meant to be there. And all of a sudden it changed somewhere along the line, and we had deeds, contracts, slavery, sale, and so forth. And so Abraham has taken us on that journey to get back to the sacred union of what it's going to be. So it's not going to be about having a big day. The two people that are supposed to be there, you know how they always ask for two witnesses? That is the parent, not the best friend or the groom or the ex-lover or whatever they have at some of these weddings are really random. It's the parents. The two witnesses was the mother and the father. That was your witness. They then went out and told family and friends they're in a sacred union. That's all it took. It was a hard one to do. From someone who's come from a broken marriage, I saw it really clear. Like, oh, yeah. You know, I saw it very, very clear. And also, the thing is, I can also see for the future, the generations to come, and I'm talking, you know, the kids of today, the teenagers of today, they're going to have the sacred union that we didn't have the opportunity to explore. That's why we came here, to make this a mission of ours. They're going to go back to being in the sacred union. So you think about, you know, how many of you've got granddaughters or grandsons, and you can think, oh, in years to come, they're just going to have a beautiful sacred union with their loved one.
Yeah.
There's so much hope for them. You know, it's just so beautiful, the thought of it, you know.
Yes.
And then, you know, they're going to come back and tell you about it, and you're going to hear about how beautiful it was for them, their moment of promise. You're not meant to be a part of it. You're not meant to be the big show sitting at the bridal table. Okay. Sacred Hearts, soul messages. Who's got it? If I can find it, it's in here somewhere. How far? And a divine heart chakra activation. Anyone got it? Or do you want me to do it?
Oh, that's all right.
Soul messages. This is a good one. It's been around for a while now since I did soul messages, and we get reminded all the time to redo it. Divine heart chakra activation. This is where you get into a comfortable position, which we are in our meditative state, and allow the golden light beam into your heart chakra to activate the green emerald. It's amazing how much it's all connected to that heart energy, this sacred heart, sacred union. It's all about trusting your heart, not letting outside noise influence become part of it. Have you understood that part of it?
Yes.
You know, how we've allowed that to happen.
Yeah, totally.
Let it fill with shades of warm golden light. Feel the golden light spread out to the sides of your body, then all the way to the bottom of your feet, because you're becoming oneness. Raise this light, and as it rises through, it becomes lighter, stronger from your feet up to the heart chakra. Once at the heart chakra, allow the light to circle twice clockwise. So from the 12, 1, 2, 3, around, and rise the light to your higher self. Keep lifting up until you see your higher self surrounded in golden beams of light. Now speak these words out loud. I give myself permission to be filled with the golden light of eternity. To everyone I meet, I give this light to. I give this light to Mother Gaia and her nature, oceans and elements. Again, the oneness. I give this light to all who need healing, to free pain and to be whole, so they feel your light. I receive all healing qualities that are needed for this time. May the light be transferred. I surrender all old programs, implants, and replace these with the golden light. Receive. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Clap fingers. Clap. Ring bell activated. So you're activated now for your heart, oneness, pureness. And you know, the good thing about it is that we are always activated as beings of light. You've just got to reactivate it. It's like charging yourself up again.
That all makes sense.
I feel good that we're getting rid of that deed.
Absolutely.
That piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
I feel really, really good because it's like a receipt of sale, you know, as they said. And I feel you're not for sale.
No.
No, there's no way. Your love is between you and that other person. Not to sell to the government, to the church, to whatever. And by lifting that, the frequency of all marriages, all relationships is going to be far more freer, and feel it and know and learn to trust. And maybe by doing this today, we're also thinking about marriages that are in trouble. Maybe we're rescuing them. You know, maybe we're shifting that frequency for them. And I think the people that are always having problems in marriage, and I think, oh my goodness, this is going to shift that. Abraham said, couples that understand each other from the beginning will remain together. The ones that don't understand each other go ahead and have a big event are the ones that drift apart. Are not strong enough to remain. And then with the deed frequency on top of that, it just pulls them apart. Whereas you two already went in with true content of the heart and understanding. You had that conversation, and you two, don't forget, are on a mission together. And people that don't understand that will not survive, because, you know, some of you come together to work together in a purpose. And you're in that 5% that I spoke about, the marriages that stay together. The ones
We
that,
even look at ourselves as individuals, and all of my strengths are all of his weaknesses, and vice versa. We're like the yin and yang, and together we just are something incredible. And even
this is why the deed is so dangerous.
Mm,
And, the other thing is you were lucky you didn't have that masculine male figure in the house selling you off, that
mm,
energy, that frequency. I didn't either, but I had a brother. But, even his energy was off from the start. And that's what sort of set our thing down the wrong road. Whereas I think people that go into these marriages thinking, oh, yes, we're going to have this big affair of a day and everything, not understanding one another. They just want the whole day. They want the whole marriage. It's like it's like, people that get carried away with the whole Disney princess look. Well, that's what marriage
mm,
is to them. And so they're going in with no understanding.
mm.
And so this is that program that's talked about. So then the governments and the churches have come in and said, oh, we'll take hold of that programming, we'll control it. And that's what's happened. Whereas people like you that you said have already done the conversation, done the work, understood one another, allowed each other to be individuals. I've been to hen parties where I've heard the girl say, I'll change that about him once I'm married to him. We'll change that. I'm not happy about it, but I'll change it. Don't worry. We'll be married for a while and he'll be doing this and doing that. And I thought, hang on a minute. Hang on. Why are you getting
Yeah.
married then if you want to change it?
But then on the other hand, if she overheard him saying, well, I'm going to change her, it'd be a completely different story, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. The whole thing is
Mm.
like, that's why we've got to go back into that pureness, oneness. You've done the work, you're a sacred union, you know this is going to work, you trust what you have between you, you go out and you make that promise. Nobody has to interfere. Two parents will stand there and witness it and then tell the rest of the world whatever they used to do. But it all started with that whole big programming thing as well. So, this is where we're changing it and we've got to move forward, because I certainly want my granddaughters to be able to be free to go out into a paddock with their loved one and know that they are going to be able to be free to marry whoever they like and trust their hearts and know they're going into a good frequency marriage, not a marriage of government control and church control. And that's what we've got to change, because New Earth isn't about that. New Earth is about still being free citizens here to explore our journey.
It's quite funny when I think about it, because when we were saying our wedding vows, the ones that the person makes you say, when it come to saying that me to be his lawful wedded wife, he turned around and said, my awful wedded wife. And we cracked up laughing. And even to this day, he goes, don't worry, our marriage isn't lawful, it's awful.
No, and the
So
word
even then I look back and think, well, maybe that slip of the tongue was appropriate because it took out that
lawful,
the law behind it, like
yeah,
the contract type stuff, like
lawful biting. Yeah, it's not
oh, it
taking
was
it out.
so funny. Like I look back now on the way, after thinking deeply about what you've been saying the last couple of days, and I think, all the things back then that you think, oh my God, nothing's going right or the way it's supposed to, you think, well, obviously it happened now the way it was meant to,
Absolutely.
to break all of that, so
You're
it's
in that
funny.
5%, I tell you. It's funny though, isn't it? Because it does say lawful.
It does. Yeah, so there is a big contract behind it. Or you could change it and say awful. Oh, far
Or
out.
you could say unlawful.
Mm.
You could change.
Yep.
But that's the breakdown of it that we've got to see change now, and it will, and people will start moving that away.
Mm.
So that's really good. And it's the same with, I look at the families, and their interference. Like I had Michael's side of the family interfering in the arrangements and telling me, and I personally paid for my own wedding. My mother gave me
Sure.
towards it. The rest of it I saved up and paid for it. And his mother came to me and asked me, could she invite all her friends? And I was paying for it. I said, no, you can invite one. So, it was all just very weird. So, this is what I mean. It's no one else's business. It's no one else to be involved. A friend that I didn't know and never met came to my wedding of hers. It's supposed to be that beautiful sacred union of two people. It's what it's about. And that's been removed. And that's what we're here to change and bring back today. So interesting though, because what I've learned also is women or girls marry men that aren't available to them. Like if their father's abandoned them or hasn't been available or around them, because that's all they know.
Mm.
That's why it's very important. The father must be present in their life, must be there for them. It's really important.